I'm excited about tonight's class, not only because we're doing some fun folds, but because we are using the Seaside Bay bundle. If you know me, I live in a coastal community and I absolutely love beach-themed stamp sets and papers and all that stuff. So let's get started. I believe this first card is called a bridge card because this piece bridges this gap. And it's a pretty simple card to make. You're going to do some cutting, but you're not going to do some throwing away. Let's see how it's done. We do see, remember, look for the directions on your templates. Look for the directions for the card base first. I'm going to bring in a piece of crumb cake, and it says 4 1/4 by 11, so I've already done that. Scored at 5 1/2. So just like we would do a normal hot dog fold. Cut off 4 inches from one end. So I'll just slide this down to 4. And I'm going to cut this off. Then cut that one, so this one I've just cut off, at 2 1/2. Okay, so I've got these 3 pieces. Says the 2 1/2 by 4 inch piece gets turned. That's this one that gets turned. And then the 1 1/2 by 4 goes on the bottom. That's this piece right here. Let's set my trimmer aside. We're going to bring in this largest piece and fold on that score line and burnish. At this point, if you want, you can go ahead and put your white piece down that goes on the inside. I like to save it just in case I get a little glue somewhere that I shouldn't. This piece is going to sort of get put right back here where it came from. So you can see that I could put my card back together if I wanted to, but this one's going to get turned and it's going to span this gap. It's going to be a bridge between the two. But before we attach that, we need to attach our designer series paper. So I've got my By the Bay paper, and I took the barn boardy looking one, and I cut those pieces at 1 1/4 by 4, and there's 2 of them because one goes on the top. Kind of like the reverse side of this too. It's got some birds and some shells. It's all in a nice crumb cake. And then we're going to take this one and we're going to, where's that other piece? Oh, it's right on it and I couldn't find it. We're going to take this piece and do the same thing on the bottom. All right, I'm going to set this right back down so that the bottom and the sides are aligned perfectly. I'm not going to touch it. This piece right here, I'm going to set on top, and it's really important that you only put adhesive on the top and the bottom because you don't want to glue the card down shut to itself. I'm going to leave a little space over at the side. You can center this or not. Doesn't really matter. You can move this over. You can have it on the left side instead of the right. You could have it in the center. Wherever you like it is where it should go. Now I've got another piece of the By the Bay Designer Series paper. And this one is a little bit of a landscape look. And so we're going to put that right there. I'm going to adhere that down. There we go, just like that. All right, and so now maybe I go ahead and I put my white piece on the inside as I normally would. This will be where I write a sentiment. And as always, when you've got something odd going on the front where that involves a hole or a missing piece, when you're writing or stamping on the inside, you need to be cognizant of that. So you can just have it showing through clear here. You could cut another piece of that barn board and put that on the inside. Let's see if I were to, let's see. I don't want to put something different like this on because that really disrupts the feel. But let's see if I can find another piece here. Like, could I put something like this in here? Sure, I could do that. So I could cut a piece that maybe spans this dimension and goes all the way down the side. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's see how that looks. We can always take it off. So this white piece, remember, was 5 1/4 inches long. It's our standard inside piece. And if I measure this amount that's showing here, I see from the edge of the white is about a 1 1/4. So I would probably go a little bit over 1 1/4, maybe 1 3/8. So if I did this, then I have a little bit of decoration on the inside. You could also stamp an image, but so this sort of looks like the markings on a shell, but it also looks like a bird with a lot of toes. I don't know, but I kind of like it, so I'm going to keep that there. Again, you could stamp something or you could just leave it blank. This piece will help me remember not to write in that area. And then all I have to do is remember, don't write all the way to the edge of the other side, because you can see a little bit of a gap here. So just don't write all the way to that other side. This looks a little crooked. I'm not going to fix it now. All right, now we just need to decorate this. So let's go ahead and stamp an image from our stamp set. Let's see what we've got here. So if I bring in Seaside Bay, I think I'm going to go ahead with the bird. Let me just take a piece of scrap paper here. I'll get my bird out. I'm going to stamp, I need something a little bit of contrast. Everything's pretty light on my card. Let me bring that in. So let me bring something of contrast in. I could, let's go ahead and, do I want to stamp it in crumb cake or something even darker? I'm going to go with soft suede, I think. I may regret this direct decision. I don't know. It's kind of a natural looking bird color to me. So I have a soft suede Stampin' Blend. I'm going to just add a little bit more color up here to the wings. This, you know, I didn't need to do this, so you could just go without this step. Got some white in here. I could leave the white too. All right, so there we have it. I have a little bit out down here. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in the ivory blend. I just want something that's a little light down here. And I think that's a little bit dark, but I'm gonna bring in a petal pink, the light petal pink. I'm gonna just put that all over his breast and also blend in this other color that I just added. All right. So there I have my bird. I don't know, I did this earlier and I die cut it because we have dies that go with this set. I did it earlier and I stamped it in blue, Night of Navy. And you know what? I think I like the Night of Navy better. So I stamped it in Night of Navy and I colored it in Crumb Cake and then petal pink on the breast. So I think I like that best. So I'm going to use that one. I'm going to bring it onto my card and figure out where I'm going to put it right here. I want his feet to make sure he's going down. I'm okay with his tail sticking over the edge. And I'm not gonna, I don't think I want to, yes I do. I do want to put dimensionals on. It would look fine without it as well. I think it's gonna look nice with it on it. Oh, let me do another one. Make sure it's not too wobbly. There we go. Yep. And let's see, what else can we do here? I think we could bring in some of these faux glass, sea glass shapes and just put some pebbles on the ground. I have a little bit of one left over. I'm going to bring this one in. Start using these guys up off this little strip. Okay, take your pick tool here. Put some rocks down. I'd probably put a bunch on here. Something that looks like that. So just a bunch of rocks there. And so yes, this is blue. For some of you, you're having trouble because why am I putting rocks in the water? Because sea glass is formed in the water and he could have his feet in the water and he's just picking out the pebbles. I just like it anyway. So, and it's my card. So my mother used to always get after me because I wouldn't color things a natural color. Because I wanted them to just either look vibrant or just different and unique. And so she was not all about that. So she'd get on my case. And so maybe I might want to go ahead and put a sentiment up there. Let's see if I look in here. This is a really serene card. I could do heartfelt sympathy, or I could just do a thank you for everything. I'm going to do heartfelt sympathy because sometimes I just don't have those when I need them. You find that's the case for you as well? I'm going to use a dark color again. I need to have some of that contrast. I should have stamped this before because now I'm stamping on some layers, but came out okay. Maybe a little bit crooked. Not bad. And so that is our bridge card. And you can write something inside. You could stamp a little something down here. For instance, we could take this seashell stamp and just bring in my Crumb Cake ink pad. Stamp this right down at the bottom. So I've got some shells. And there's my card. Here's another fun fold for which I don't have a name. Perhaps there is one, but I don't know what it is. And when you open it up, you've got this action going. So you've got a little accordion fold over here. You've got this little spanner piece that hides the sentiment when it's closed. I just created this so it doesn't really want to stay closed. But once you put this in an envelope and it gets processed, it will lay much flatter. So let's see what we need here. So remember, when you're making a fun fold, look for the directions for the base. So the base is 5.5 inches by 11 inches long. So I've taken a piece of, let me put this aside. I've taken a piece of Night of Navy, and this is an 8.5 by 11 sheet. And when I cut it at 5.5, we get a 3-inch wide piece and a 5.5-inch wide piece. If I bring in my Simply Scored tool, I'm going to put the long side against the top, and I'm going to score it at 4, 5 3/4, 7.5, and 9 1/4. So 4 and 5 3/4, 7.5, and 9 1/4. All right. So that's all scored. While I've got this out, I see that there's another word base, the spanner base. That's this piece right here. It spans a couple of different sections. That is 3 by 6 scored at 3 inches. So when I cut this 5.5 off, that left a 3-inch wide piece, which is very nice. So all we need to do is cut this down to 6 inches. I'm going to cut this down to 6 inches, and it gets scored at 3 inches. So in half. And that is all we need our Simply Scored tool for. We're going to bring this in, and this wide section is the back of the card. So then I will begin to accordion fold it. And you want to get a nice creases. That'll help it lay as flat as possible. And then you go back on the next one. Then you go forward. So you're just doing an accordion fold, just alternating the way you're folding. And then back. And so this lays flat like that. And now we need to decorate it. While we're here, we might as well score this one, fold this one in half and burnish it as well. So when I pull this back in, I can see I have 3 identical pieces here that are 1.5 by 5 1/4. And then all these other squares are 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. One's a designer series paper and 2 are a neutral, in my case, basic white. I'm going to go ahead and bring in some of this beautiful By the Bay specialty paper. If you have not seen this, let me show you some of this is only a partial package. Let me show you some. So there's foil colored on one side and matte on the other. And so there's just some really, really pretty, so here's some nice scenes. Wait till you see what I'm going to do with this in a little bit. Not tonight, but I've got a class coming up. We've got some barn board. We've got some cool oyster shells, mussels. I don't know what the difference between oyster and mussels are, but these look like clam shells. See the iridescence on some of them? So one side is all matte and the other side has foil on it. So if one side is not shiny, the other side is. So some really, really pretty papers. I'm taking this one, which I love. This one, I love the colors, I love the layout, I love everything about it. And I'm going to cut that at 5 1/4. And then in the other direction, I'm going to cut it at 1.5 inches. So 1.5, oops, moved it there. Now, in case it gets a little loud in the background, I am shooting this video during the Super Bowl because, of course, my team isn't in it. So I care less about it. So I have those 3 pieces. And then I need a contrasting piece. I'm going to use this one that measures 2 3/4 square. Two and 3/4. There we go. All right, let me put all that aside. We're going to adhere these pieces first. I'm just going to use some regular green glue. You can use whatever adhesive you want. Now, because this has several folds on the front, you want to make sure that you're not doing anything too bulky with the rest of it. And these shells go in every which direction, so I don't have to really worry about what side is up. You can choose the one that works best for you. And then I have this section. I have had my By the Bay stuff since very early on in this catalog, but I have forced myself not to play with it yet because there were so many other things that might have been timely, like Valentine's or Celebration. But now that Celebration is winding down, I am going to get back to this a little bit. Now, if I was thinking, which I wasn't, I probably should have turned this one around so it would just look like a continuation all the way. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to take this piece, and one side gets the focal image, so we're going to have to stamp that, and the other side gets this Designer Series paper. And it's cut just 1/4 inch less. We'll just go ahead and do that. Now remember I said this is a spanner section, so it's going to span a couple of different. So how do I attach it? It is going to attach on this first panel and then this blank panel that's of the same size. So we're going to figure out how we want this. And when I'm looking at where I'm positioning it, I'm probably going to put it slightly above center, but I'm going to, as far as left and right go, I'm going to have about the same distance over here to the edge as over here to the edge. You can use tear and tape right here, or you can use some glue. I'm holding this down with my hand, and I know that only a little bit of this gets attached, so it's not all of it. If I glue everything down, then the card is going to be stuck closed. So I'm just going to hold that for a second. Tear and tape, you don't have to hold it for very long because it sets right up. And then I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. So if you use tear and tape, you don't have to be quite so careful where you're putting it. You also don't want any in here because you don't want this spanner piece to attach to itself. All right, and that should be pretty good. And so there we go. This piece in here is gonna, you'll position it, and what you'll want to do is check to make sure that when the card is closed, it doesn't show, which it's not right now. So this is pretty good positioning. So maybe I'm just going to pick this up a little bit, put that down, do the same thing on the other side. I mean, I can put it on the white as well. All right. Whoops, I got a little crazy with the glue. I'll let that dry a little bit, and then I'll just take my adhesive eraser and clean that up. All right, so now we need to go ahead and bring in our focal point. I'm going to bring in the By the Bay stamp set. Okay, here we go. And I'm bringing in a Night of Navy stamp pad, and I'm going to bring in Crumb Cake because that's one of the colors that's in the Designer Series paper. I am going to stick with the shells because my Designer Series paper is shells, so I don't think I'm going to put the bird on there. I'm going to go ahead and put the shells on there. We'll open up my ink pad and we'll get out my shell, my oyster shell. There we go. Then I'm going to get out the Crumb Cake pad, and there is a stamp in here that looks like sand. I'm going to go ahead and use that, but I need a bigger block, so I'm going to change blocks. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and add some sand right around here. I usually do this afterwards. I'll show you why. I'm going to just add some more sand in here all the way around. All right, so we just got some sand like that. Now you can keep it like that. You can make it sandier looking. Here's what I mean. Here's a Crumb Cake marker. And I'm just going to color in here. I should use the other end. I should use the brush tip end. And when you're coloring, you can make it kind of a rough color. You don't have to make sure it's perfect, because the sand is going to have some different looks to it as well. You know, it's not perfectly flat usually, unless the tide has just gone out and nobody else has walked on it. So there we have our sand. So you can see in here, you can see both the speckles and the regular sand. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in the pearl. Let's see. I'm going to put Wink of Stella in for the pearl. And I have to be careful because the Wink of Stella will make the blue run a bit. So I'm just pouncing it in there. There we go. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to add in with just, this is a pool party, I think. I want to get a little bit, this end works better here. I'm just adding in some blue tones, some warmer blue tones. Then I'm going to add in some petal pink. And I got this idea because some of the paper has stuff colored this way as well. Just adds a little bit more dimension to that. And so there we have our little piece there. We can go ahead and attach it to the front. There we go. And so there we have, now we just need to put an inside sentiment. And I think for this one, let's see, Heartfelt Sympathy, thank you for everything, or you are a pearl, rare and precious. I think I'm going to do that one. That one comes in this set. I'm going to go ahead and do the Night of Navy. Uri Pearl, Rare and Precious. I think one more addition here. I've already got this mounted, so that was kind of an unfortunate choice, but I'm gonna make it work. You should always stamp before you mount. And we're going to, let's see, let me even this out here. All right, so we now just have some shells under there. And so there is our fun fold. You can embellish a bit, but remember, you don't want to embellish too much because you're going to potentially get a surcharge at the post office if you make it too heavy. You might put a flat back pearl here. I think because that's in the center section, that would be okay. But I kind of like just that glistening because of the Wink of Stella. There we go. This fun fold is another one that involves an accordion fold, but this one has a window in it. And so when you open up the front card like you would normally, you have this little pull-out piece. So you can see that we start with a base that is a normal card, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And we have a DSP layer that's a typical DSP layer for the front, 4 by 5 1/4. And then we're going to die cut, and you need 2 circles that nest into each other. So for my layering circles, I chose these 2 because they fit nicely inside each other. The gap's not too big. They look really nice together. And then you have an inside base, what I'm calling an inside base, because remember, we start with the base and then we go, you know, from there, but now I'm going to go to the inside base. So it's like a card in a card. This measures 8 by 5 1/4, and I've scored it at 4 inches and 6 inches. And just accordion folded that and attached it inside here. So this circle is what got punched out from the center here. So that's just underneath, and we can put that there just as a little extra decoration inside. It is optional depending on, you know, the paper that you use. So I'm going to be using this paper for my inside, and I'm not sure if you can tell. I think you can see the shine. So that won't be really good to stamp on. I will wait to see what I get at the end, but you will want to know roughly where your center is, so when you're writing, it's not showing everywhere else. You can write in here, and you can write over in here your messages. But when your card is only half open, you are going to see writing here, as you do right now. And then this circle right here is exactly what we cut from the center. So it'll be important to save your die cuts. And then I just chose a smaller circle for that layer inside. All right, let's see this in action. So here I have a piece of mint macaron that is 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. I'm gonna fold that into a card. And then I have a piece of basic white that measures 5 1/4. It should measure 5 1/4, yes, by 8 inches. And remember, we want to score that at 4 inches and at 6 inches. So here's the 4 inches, and here's the, here's the 6 inch mark. Oops, sorry, I'm getting out of the range of the video here. I got too much stuff going on my desk. So score it at 4 and 6. So we will now fold on one, and then you're going to fold the opposite way so that it goes back on itself. So this will affix to here. Now, if you do want to put a designer series paper in here, you can. Just remember that only half of it will be showing when it's closed because this is covering up the other half. You can go ahead and adhere this unless you want to stamp on here first. So if you want to just add some little decorations, you can do that, but you'll want to do that before you adhere it, just in case, something goes wrong when you're adhering it. So for instance, if I get my By the Bay set out again, let's go ahead. I'm going to put some birds in here. And I haven't even mounted these birds yet. So let's show you how to do that. Most of you probably know. You're going to peel off the backing here. You're going to find the bird image, and that will be split in the back, and you peel off that protective piece. And then you're going to try to line things up. Now this one's an interesting one. So I'm trying to line things up. I can see the outline of my image. I press it down, I peel it off, and the sticker is on the back. All right, so let's go ahead and we're gonna stamp these guys in what color? What color should we do here? I'm gonna do Balmy Blue. I want to keep them kind of light, I think. I'm not gonna do Balmy Blue. I'm gonna do, let's do oh gee, I can't even make up my mind. So in here, I could do a soft seafoam, a Balmy Blue. Yeah, I am gonna do a Balmy Blue. I changed my mind again. So let's just go ahead and we'll put these guys down at the bottom. And I know, I didn't do a very good job. And see, that's why we now have the opportunity to fix this, which just means you're going to fold the opposite way on all those scores and burnish. Get nice crisp ones. All right, so now we have this inside again. Let's try this again. I really didn't mean to do that, but it was a nice happy accident, so I could show you why we stamp first. All right, we got our birds in there. I'm going to go ahead and adhere it to the inside of the card. Running out of glue. Gonna need a new bottle pretty soon. There's a little glob right there. Let's spread it out. Okay. Let's hold this closed. So the free end is the one that goes towards the fold of the card. You can see we have this right here. All right, and yes, part of the bird is being cut off, but it's all right. I don't happen to mind. I'm gonna bring in this other piece of paper from By the Bay. I love the back side of this. I love this one, and I love this one. I'm gonna cut this at 4 inches by 5 1/4 because that's what my template says to do. And this is going to be adhered to the front. Now, what you want to be careful of is you don't want to adhere the part that you're cutting out. So just apply adhesive around the outside edge. Just around the outside. Don't do anything in the middle. You don't really need to do anything in the middle anyway. I know some people do, but you don't really need to. You've got the outside done, you're good. All right, before I make one more card, I'm gonna have to get rid of my empty glue and get a good one. All right, we're gonna center this on the front. Sorry, getting out of view here. So I've just adhered the outside edges here. This is still free in here, which is what we want because we're gonna die cut this and we want both of those pieces to be separate because they're gonna go in opposite places. Let's die cut. So here I have my machine, plate 1 and 2. I have plate number 3. Now this is the top of my card, and I want to put the circle a little bit above center. I don't really want it just in the center. That way it'll allow me to add a sentiment. If I want. Put the number 3 plate on top again. Let's see, make sure that's centered. That's pretty good. This is going through thick. I wonder why that is. I think it's because I have 2 layers. You know why I was going through thick? Dang it. Because I had my card closed. That was dumb. All right, well, you know what? It's going to be okay. It didn't cut all the way through everything. It just cut through the top layers. So let's back this up. How should you do it? I did it right on my sample. You need to open up your card. And then you need to put your circle where you want it. I should have known, and I did check myself, right? I should have known when it was going through so hard, something was amiss. All right, so then you put your top plate over, and everything runs through separately with, let me see if I can show you, with the whole card trailing. All right. I am showing you lots of tips and tricks tonight. Some on purpose, some not on purpose. Now you can see that I have some, a circle here where it partially cut, but it didn't go through, so I'm saved. Remember, I can put this here anyway if I want to. And when I look, I can see there's some flashy stuff here and here, but the middle is okay. So I could write a sentiment right there if I wanted to. I can write whatever I want to write for a note to my friend. I can write over in this panel right here if I want to. I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down. Ooh, I could also do this one. I could flip it over. And I could have that showing, and I could definitely stamp on that and write a little bit more of a note. But I really do like this side too, so choices. Let's go ahead. Come on. All right, switching out my glue. Switching it out. And this one is going. All right. Go ahead and put that right here. This looks like the sea heading into the sky. It's pretty. Okay, and I can stamp something and die cut it and put it there too. All right, but let's go back to my card front. Now, because I was trying to force so many layers through at once, I do have this this circle from my die. It's not bothering me because it is a perfect circle for one thing. That's helpful. You're going to bring in your other piece. So this is the part of the card that got cut out, and we want to attach it. So the easiest way to attach it is like this. I know that I want this to open, so I can only put adhesive on this part. But with it closed, I can tell what part that is. So with my card closed, I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive around here. Not too close to the edges. You don't want anything to kind of spread too much. And in fact, I'm going to spread this out myself a little bit, just so it doesn't ooze in the wrong direction. So now when I lay this right in the center, it lays perfectly where it's supposed to, all lined up. See, there we go. Now, I knew where to put this centerpiece because I had that outline of the die where the die had cut. However, if I didn't, because I didn't try to force a whole, 3 or 4 layers through at once, what I could do to position this one is open the white piece and close this and stick that there. It sticks through the hole. It's the same size as the hole. It was cut from this hole, so that's how you do it. Now all we need to do is decorate this bad boy. I'm going to bring in the bird here that goes along with this. And I'm going to take a piece of basic white. Now you can cut the circle out first, or you can stamp and then cut out. It does not matter. You do want to make sure you have the smaller circle when you're die cutting. So if you bring in your bigger one, you can see that this fits inside, so that's good. You can also check it on here, and I can see that it cuts on the inside edge, so I know that that's going to be smaller. Okay, we're going to bring in my Night of Navy, ink up my little bird. Then I'm going to die cut him. And remember, the die cutting happens on the inside edge, so this is just big enough. So I'm going to cheat because I already had this one done. I couldn't decide whether I was going to do a crab or a bird. I did decide to go with the bird. If you close this, you don't have to close it because you're gonna get it right because of the circle anyway. Let's just say we have this right here. Now, if you want to color your little bird a little bit more with blends, you certainly can. All right, and so here we have our card, and it comes out just like this. And this will lay nice and flat, especially once it's been through the mail. But there we go. You can put whatever sentiment in you want and wherever you want. You can put a little sentiment down here. You can actually put one across the front that will not stick. Let me show you that. I'm going to bring in a piece of basic white and my mint macaron stamp pad. I'm choosing to use Charming Sentiments. I'm using the Hey There. Let's go ahead and just put that there. Now if I bring in my paper trimmer, let me set this out of the way for a second. We bring in my paper trimmer and trim this off. I don't need my cutting plate. And so we have this Hey There. I am going to flag the end of this, and I want the part that's going to stick out into the bird area flagged. Let's try this. There we go. We've got that flag there. And if I bring my card back in, I can simply pop this up right here and it can hang right over, or I can make it lower and it hangs over into that area a little bit, but it doesn't have to stick because I won't put any adhesive there. I can pop this up with dimensionals, but again, I probably want to be, well, this isn't very thick, so let's go ahead and do that. You could have also put this up on a piece of mint macaron. right. Hey there. And you can just write a little note in there if you want to. Again, just right here. Maybe you put a happy birthday. You could put a thanks for everything. Or maybe I put in everything will be okay. Maybe somebody's, you know, sometimes there's just not words to say. And so let's do everything will be okay. Sometimes people just need to hear that. You don't have to say more than that. So let's bring back my Night of Navy ink. I want it to be dark enough. I'm gonna just make sure I know where my, okay, so my shiny piece is right here. I'm gonna avoid stamping on that. And of course that's where my H goes, but everything will be okay. There we go. And so you can always put another note somewhere else if you wanted to. Now I can tell that this little H here is, there we go. It's made it onto the little shiny part, but it's all right. And we have our card. Wasn't the smoothest one to do for me filming, but I showed you lots of tips and tricks. So just to recap, when you're running this through the machine to die cut the circle, have it all the way open. Just die cut this one, well, 2 layers. In just a few days, I'm going to be announcing a class that features the By the Bay suite of products, and I think you're really gonna love it. It will be a class that it is not a stamp camp. It is not nearly as involved as a stamp camp, so it will be a shorter length of time. And stay tuned for that announcement because I know you are gonna love the project that I'm featuring.